everyone. This is Kathy Mason from MasonWorks Marketing here on Conscious Business Zone with my friend, Dr. Joan of Angels, and a new person to me, Paul Christodoulou. Did I do that? Okay.
Perfect.
Close enough for
Attorney
government
Paul.
Attorney Paul. So today we're going to talk about something kind of serious that is really important during these changing times. Everyone is trying to figure out how to play the game with all the changes that are going on. Every day, something different's happening. And Dr. Joan brought something to my attention just not too long ago about her situation that she had identity theft. And you hear about it, but I didn't know anyone close to me that had had it. I've had other friends have scams done against them where they lost $4,000 or this or that. But I had never really heard about this. So I thought it would be the perfect thing to bring to my audience for all of you who may be struggling with, I can't afford one more thing to go wrong right now. And that's a lot of people are in a fragile position like that. So Dr. Joan, why don't you give us some information about your story, about how you even got interested in this subject. Okay.
Well, let's see. It could have begun with the hacks that I had on Facebook, where someone took over my account and several of my clients actually sent them money. So that's one place it could have begun. It could have begun years and years ago in 1995 when my tax attorney told me, actually 2005 rather, that the IRS told him someone had my social security number and they just shrugged it off like I was, insane to be so worried about it. Years later, culminating in getting an email again from the IRS. This time there's two people using my social security number. Nothing you could do about it. Except be anxious and distressed. And what I learned from all of this, and now since the recent hack, there's 3 people using my social security number. So there you have it. Now, I know for a fact that 2.5 billion social security numbers were breached a few months ago. There's only 300 and some odd million in the country. So that means that almost every person, I can almost guarantee, had their social security numbers hacked. So what does that mean for us? Well, I teach a lot about ascension and mastery and holding your power and your energy and your light. But I can tell you that every time I had to start dealing with my stolen identity and the stolen credit, in fact, just this morning I had another attempted hack on my email, but just the change in my state. So going from a 5th dimension, 15th dimensional vibrational frequency to probably lower than a 3-dimensional frequency at that current moment of time, for as long as it took, the agitation was so strong, Kathy, that I realized that many of our community are dealing with this themselves and don't know how to deal with it. But the worst part is it's distracting them from the work that they're here to do.
Right.
And so as Dr. Joan, it's like I'm always about helping people step into a better place. I realized that I need to talk about it. And how do we find solutions to this without becoming a neurotic, anxious, nervous wreck? Paul, what do you think?
Well, Dr. Joan, that was a mouthful. Honestly, it's something that's in the press now, but it's been going on for quite a long time. And this comes down to having to have some protection from this event. And in your case, when you say, you spoke to the IRS, the IRS isn't going to speak to you, typically speaking. So you're getting bounced around. If you were to have had a lawyer, then it might be different because the lawyer would know who to speak to, or at least the method of communication, meaning registered mail, return receipt requested from an attorney's office that gets their attention. And if they don't respond, then taxpayer advocacy and then even court. But a lawyer would also tell you that the IRS isn't the person you should be talking to about your hacking, because your social security number being used in an IRS document is not your issue. The issue is the social security number being used at all. and
Right.
that you need to protect against creditors, etc. And it goes beyond having a lawyer. As an attorney, of course, I can help people with this, but it also requires a private investigator, somebody who's going to go ahead and find out exactly what's going on, and is going to be able to then contact me and tell me what I need to do, who I need to get involved to fix it. And this is a very expensive process. And what I would strongly urge you to do is have that pound of prevention, or the ounce of prevention, as they say, beats a pound of cure. And by having your identity protected in the first place, where you go ahead with a company and you provide them with your social media address, your accounts, etc., and then they start monitoring the dark web, the social media spheres, and the places where hackers hang out, to make sure that your information is not around there. I mean, I received a notice yesterday from Apple saying that my password is compromised. And it's a big deal to go ahead and try to fix it. And I'm very careful with my passwords. But it's another full-time job, and you don't need another full-time job, which is why I would recommend getting a service that will take care of this for you, that's professional.
Right. So, Kathy, what in the end, for me, it was so overwhelming that I actually looked for ways to prevent it from happening again. And I'm going to tell you, yesterday I see an email from Norton, and I actually fell for the scam. I called them. And then as they were telling me what to type into my browser, I'm thinking, oh my God, wait, it could take me to a hacked site. And I hung up on them, but I was this close away from getting myself hacked. Now I have protection now. So I started working with a company called Legal Shield, ID Shield, and the identity theft protection. In a case like mine, if people go out and they start using my social security number to get a mortgage on their house or to get a loan, the ID Shield protection, number one, would hire attorneys to go to talk to the compromised agencies, number one, to try to get it fixed. And number two, I'm covered up to $3 million. So if they manage to charge up $3 million worth of credit on my accounts, which they couldn't, but they could try, I have that protection. So we're covered up to $3 million. If you're hacked on Facebook or social media, you're covered. They will help work with Facebook, work with the social media accounts to get you back online, to restore your identity. And it's so funny because, when we talk about spiritual, it's like not like we really want to identify with this 3D world, but we have an identifier here on the planet, and it's important that it's not compromised. So you can get help with the ID Shield for sure, in making sure your credit is okay, restoring your credit, restoring you to full credit if it's hacked. As I said, up to $3 million worth of coverage, and also working with not only your social media accounts, but with your social media presence, your identity as a social media person. So those are some of the benefits of having the ID Shield. The Legal Shield is awesome. It's like they say it's like having an attorney in your pocket. So someone doesn't fulfill their commitment to you, you reach out to Legal Shield and they will send a letter on your behalf. They'll get results. You're in a car accident, you can text them right away. They will have someone on the phone helping you. You have a service, your insurance company suddenly refuses to pay for your coverage. You have an attorney on your side. And I know that all the rich people have attorneys. The rest of us really don't. But when you realize you can have an attorney on your payroll for like $1 a day, you're golden. You can take care of things before they happen or after they happen. If you're stopped by a cop on the highway, you press the red button and you have someone on the other end in 90 seconds. So you're never alone. I think it's awesome. You have anything to add to that, Paul?
Yeah, I think what Kathy brought up in the introduction about the importance of, do you really want to have another problem to worry about with all that we have, is really a big point. If you get the ID Shield and the Legal Shield, it'll be one issue that everyone else is grappling with that you'll no longer have to grapple with. And I'd like to give a couple of examples from my own practice that I've seen, and because people don't always understand why they need it. Here's a simple example. I I had a friend who had a brand new car, and the car was parked at his in his assigned parking spot, and the tree kept dropping sap on his car and destroying his car. So he called the association and they did nothing. And for a month, his car, every morning had to come out, wash the sap off. And then finally he said, "Oh, let me, let me call Paul." And so I went and said and sent a letter to the association because that's the way you're supposed to communicate with the association. And the next morning he woke up to the sound of a chainsaw cutting down that tree. And it was a nice, simple example. It took one letter. And instead of it becoming something litigious where he says, "I'm not going to pay the homeowners association fees," or something else, it was just a simple letter. And that's the beauty of having a product like this, where you can cut the problem off in the bud when it's just a simple letter. Now, that same person had an issue similar to yours, Dr. Joan, but on a bigger scale, where two people, one in South Carolina, I think it was, and one in Mississippi, um, tried to secure mortgages on his property in Florida simultaneously, because obviously it was coordinated. But he had the identity theft protection, and that stopped the process dead in its tracks as soon as they started reaching out for a social security number. And he was able to avoid any mortgage being closed and not have to deal with this problem going forward. And there are numerous examples like that. And, for anybody living in Florida, I would really like to point out that if something happens to you and your loved one, it's a state of Florida that will decide where your kids go to be raised, unless you have in your will instructions. So this is something that is a service you get with Legal Shield, where they will prepare a will, and you will be in so much better position for your kids, and not have to worry about what the government decides your kids should be with.
That's very traumatic. And by the way, Paul actually will help you if you're on Legal Shield. Paul, although he's not a Legal Shield attorney, will help you free of charge get your will coordinated for you. I'm going to reach out to you for that also. Not only can you get a will with Legal Shield, but I just spent $5,000 last year getting my trademark, and I could have had it done through Legal Shield for $100 a month would have been all it cost. So I'm happy I got my trademark, but I'm very disappointed that I didn't know about Legal Shield at the time, because I could have used that. So you can have a trust done. They'll help you with the trust. If it's something they don't cover, they'll give you 25% off on your legal fees. So they'll help you with almost everything that could come across the table. And as Paul says, prevention. So I knew yesterday when I was about to get hacked, and I kind of realized that, and I, hung up on him and closed the browser. I also, in the back of my mind, said, okay, well, you do have ID theft protection, so you're not going to lose everything. But I have had friends that have lost thousands of dollars in these kinds of scams. And so I was relieved yesterday when I thought, okay, you're protected, but actually I did the right thing by hanging up and avoiding that whole thing. But this can make you a nervous wreck, Kathy.
Yeah, I have to say that there's something about having the opportunity to pull out the big guns rather than trust. I mean, I've in 24 years, I've only had one person stiff me for a website, knock on wood, real quick. But I had to see her a couple weeks ago. But anyway, anyway, the website's still there. But yeah, so, if I would have had Legal Shield, I had a version of it 30 years ago. It's been around a very long time. And the thing is that, I think as we try to simplify our lives, having a service like that really helps you simplify, because you can cover all your bases. It's just like going to one CPA, one lawyer system, because you've got all these different types of lawyers available under one roof, right, Joan?
Many different types of, you're assigned an attorney office there, but yes, there's many different types, so they can reach out in any way. And, for your case, I realized that you can get up to, I think, 10 or 15 collection letters a month. So you can also use that service of having them send out collection letters for you. And you said the right thing when you said, when you have the big guns, like the minute Attorney Paul started to say what happened, I realized we're nothing to these people without that voice.
Well, we get attention. We get top of the list. I mean, that's the thing. When you hire an attorney and they send a letter, somebody goes, uh-oh. And if it's certified, it's even scarier. So you get top of the pile of attention, and us as squeaky wheels anymore, we don't. Plus, as you mentioned about the scams, it's an international thing anymore. You just don't know. I had a client a couple years ago that she got somebody on the phone, and it was as though she was hypnotized. And they had her buy Target gift cards, and then they had her keep her on the phone somehow. And she used to be a superintendent of schools in Michigan, so this was not a stupid person. She was very, very intelligent, and they kept her on the phone, and eventually she had to go to the bank for them and kept her on the phone. I don't know how this works, but it ended up costing her $4,000. And she kept on saying, it was like I was in this cloud, like they hypnotized me. And because she didn't even question when they said, go buy the cards and then give all the account information to me. So they used the cards right away. So, but when she went to the bank, her banker stopped her and said, what are you doing? And touched her, and it broke whatever the spell was. But they got $4,000 worth of gift cards from her.
That's
so
why
I know it happens.
The idea.
It's horrible.
Yeah, it's horrible. It's happening every day to people we know. My daughter got 5,500 pounds they took from her, and my other friends was $2,500, and they're not all getting their money back. But you know that with the ID Shield, you will get your money back. Just don't. But it's so easy. It's so easy. Like when I was hacked in 2019, I ended up calling someone that I thought was a Yahoo agent. He was at the top of the list when I looked up for help with Yahoo or whatever. There he was. And the next thing I know, he was inside my computer installing programs inside my computer, and even got into my password manager and changed the passwords right in front of my eyes. So we really don't have many resources. You can't just blindly call, find someone on the web and say, can you help me? They're likely to be harming you.
But I think one other thing is, besides the protection you're going to get, you'll find out there's so much benefit to having that lawyer consultation. Because even, for example, if you're closing on a house and you have a mortgage that you're going to have to sign, or the closing documents, or an apartment lease, you can provide those documents to the attorney, and then they'll save you money on your closing costs. They'll go ahead and make sure that the document you're signing is correct, because trying to fix a document after you've signed it is very expensive. Fixing a bad deal is very troublesome. But if you make sure you get in the right way in the first place, that's worth it. And so you'll find that, there are so many different ways that this products can help you, whether it's Legal Shield or otherwise, that it's really worth having it. And for the cost, it's less than the cup of coffee.
Well, I agree with you, Paul, on that. And I'm beginning to understand how widespread this is, and how, I don't know about you, but, we protect ourselves energetically all the time. I know Kathy does, and a lot of our friends, we do psychic protection and put all sorts of protection around us so we can go out in the world. But I think we forget that this part of our life has to be protected as well. And so I feel I don't know, I felt better yesterday knowing that if I had screwed up, at least I had a place to get help.
Right. But I think that again, this is I want to read these statistics that I pulled out. Identity theft remained a significant problem in the U.S. in 2023, with millions of Americans affected. The total losses from identity theft reached a staggering $43 billion, affecting approximately 15 million adults. Credit card fraud emerged as the most common form of identity theft, accounting for about 40% of all complaints. The most vulnerable states they showed was Nevada, Florida, and Georgia, but I'm in Colorado, I'm sure. And then nearly 5.4 million identity theft and fraud complaints were reported in 2023. We don't have that's averaging almost 15,000 complaints a day. Identity theft reports have increased 51% over the past decade, and the number of data compromises increased by 78% compared to 2022. So this is something that's going to keep happening. I mean, we're seeing this trend, and to protect yourself won't take that much effort, but the other side of it is really difficult.
Right. Like you think, oh, I don't have to do it. Nothing's happened to me, but it could happen tonight or tomorrow. Not to be an alarmist. I think it's just that the times are calling for just more discernment and in everything, not just your identity, but in everything. Yes, Paul. I can see Paul's ready to say something.
No, I'm listening.
I am. I think also that since the lockdown, I mean, when I go to send some people emails, I realize that on one of my primary lists, 5 of those people aren't with us anymore. They passed. And so
Wow.
when Paul talked about wills, I mean, that is really a serious thing. I have a will that I think is 40 years old, 30 something years old, that probably needs to be changed.
Yeah.
I have.
Mine does.
I know where it is even, but that's what I'm saying. Some of these things that you put off maybe later, when you can see that people, and it doesn't matter what age group you're in, there's a lot of people passing right now that you need legal help to do that. I don't know that you can do a good job by yourself. You don't know all the ways to do it right and to protect your everything you've worked so hard for your whole life, to make sure that it goes to your heirs. You really need a lawyer.
Well, you do, because the danger. So what happened to a friend of ours is that the mother of his child died without leaving a will, and he wasn't actually the biological father, and he had to fight with the state for quite a while to try to get custody back from the grandparents for this child that he had been bringing up the child's entire life. So it can happen just like that when we're not protected. And yes, I need to have my will made too, Kathy. So it's a good point.
I'm happy to help both of you ladies get started on that. Because a 40-year-old will, I think maybe a couple of things might have changed since then. I'm not sure.
Well, I was a multi-millionaire when I made the last one.
Well, kudos
I had
to
a
both
lot
of
of
you
money
for
when
having
I
them in
did
the
the
first
last
place.
one.
Yeah.
You know what's stopping me, Paul? I had 3 marriages, and Lord knows I can't even remember where, when, or how they happened or how they ended. So I'm like sitting there going, how am I going to identify all of that? Anyway.
Well, so
You don't really need to, though. That's the thing is, see, this is a really important point. People have preconceived notions of what they need in order to prepare a will, and they think that it's going to be some mind-boggling experiment to do it. When the reality is that there are only certain things that are legally relevant. A lot of the stuff that you're worried about isn't going to be important anymore. If it's an ex, It doesn't have to, he doesn't have to factor into your will at all. So this is why I'm saying once you get started with this, you follow the checklist. I can help you with it, and then you go ahead and use a service that will then provide it for you because it's more economical. That makes a lot of sense to me.
Makes a lot of sense to me too. It makes things easy, and it's reminding me that there are things on this. I have 2 children. It's important to manage this planet. It's important to manage 3D. So, Kathy, do you have any other questions for us?
Well, I think we just want to make this as relevant as possible to the small business owner that is maybe they have several employees, but they're running a $1 million to $2 million company, and they're juggling a lot of hats. And that's where I saw that this was a huge opportunity for people, even if your business is running a $200,000 a year company, you're still running juggling a lot of things. And so to have something under one who you're going to call, not Ghostbusters, but who you're going to call right away and get some help. The question I have though about it is, do you get the same? Are you assigned someone, Joan, that you get to have a continuing conversation
Yes.
with the same lawyer?
Someone from the Colorado legal world will be assigned to you, and they'll handle most of your cases unless it's something out of their expertise, and then they'll reach out and have other consultants available as well. So
Okay.
yes, you'll have an attorney in your pocket, and it's great because you have an app that, the Legal Shield gives you an app. And as I said, if you're stopped if you're stopped by a cop and you need instant help, you just press a button and you have instant help. You have your attorney helping you. And, the rich and famous have attorneys all the time at their beck and call. And I think it's great. This time you have an attorney in your pocket.
Well, I guess as a lawyer, the devil's always in the details. And Dr. Joan is right that there is a network of lawyers on call, but it's not a specific lawyer that you will deal with, because what's important is that you have a lawyer that understands the subject matter that you're dealing with. There will be a central contact point, just like she's saying. But for example, let's say you're from Colorado, you signed up in Colorado and you get a speeding ticket in New York. It's going to be a New York attorney that's going to handle it, that deals in traffic. If you
Right.
have a corporate issue such as formation and you want to do a formation in Delaware, it's going to be someone who understands Delaware law. And that's really important for lawyers is to have the right lawyer for that job. Now, the law firms that they work with are fantastic law firms, and then they vet the lawyers already. And, having that ability, basically, it's not like you have a lawyer on speed dial. It's like you have law firms on speed dial, which gives you access to even more services. And, that's why, again, it's a fantastic product, and the cost is minimal considering.
I'm so glad you're on the show with us. You're so right. I mean, yes, you have a handful. It's not the exact attorney. You have a group that can help you.
Yeah.
And you have the agent that sold it to you too, that you can speak to them if there's an issue, because they have a vested interest in keeping you on board. So you have that ability to say, you know what, if you're not happy for some reason with the service, you can contact the person so in this case, you contact Dr. Joan and say, Dr. Joan, I had this. And by the time there's an issue, Dr. Joan will be so familiar with this product and she's going to know exactly how to make sure your issue gets solved right away. And that is the beauty of jumping in now. And the other thing is to consider is, as more and more people have this service, there's going to be less and less people out there that can be targeted by these people. And you don't want to be left in that pool that's unprotected. And if enough of us get in there, then we're gonna take away the ability for these people to wreck our lives. And that would be great, because this has to get stopped.
It does have to get stopped, and I agree. And I think only about 3% are protected. So that's 97% of the population is going to be out there getting hacked.
Well,
And
the
we
other,
still have to protect ourselves. Like I told you what happened yesterday. So we still have to watch out.
the other thing I wanted to bring up, that this is kind of the new way of being, where we're more in community, especially for people that are running small businesses and they've been in lone eagles is what it's called, when you're working from home or working from an office all by yourself, and you really do have an isolated environment. This is another brilliant idea of a way that community and collaboration works in a different way, in a really affordable way, because I don't know if Joan's going to explain the cost, but very minimal cost per month. And there's different levels. So you could start at one level, test it out, and then go to the higher levels. But you can get so much of protection that you've been sort of putting it off. That's what I think is a lot of stuff. It's like doing your taxes at the last minute. You put things off until deadline. There's a deadline. Well, you don't know when there's a deadline for some of this stuff, and it shows up. It is curious how one letter can change everything in how you negotiate with people, because then you're not stressing about trying to be a bulldog with the client. You let the lawyer be the bull. No offense, Paul, but
rough.
but do you know what I'm saying? I mean, especially as women in business, where it's like you can get categorized in several ways, and either one of them may not be the most appropriate thing to say right here. But if you're forceful, it either your squeaky wheel works or it doesn't. It can totally backfire. But a lawyer's letter, it's all good.
Well,
I
Kathy,
know.
one other thing. I'm sorry, but if a lot of your audience is setting up small businesses, there's a fantastic package for that. But one other thing I'd point out is the laws changed. And it used to be you would set up a corporation and you didn't have to disclose the beneficial owner of the corporation in all jurisdictions.
Oh.
Now there's a federal rule that if you don't comply with it within, I forget how many months, that you can be sanctioned, and you do not want to run afoul of this. So it's something that people may not know, but something that the Legal Shield lawyers, if you have them set up your company or you have them verify your company, they're going to make sure that you're complying. And you don't want to spend time becoming a compliance officer. I mean, we're wearing as many hats as we need to already, and probably want to take a couple of them off at this point.
Yeah.
So why not be able to take two and park them by the side and say, I don't need to be a private investigator. I don't need to be an attorney. And I also don't need to be a government regulations officer. So
Yeah.
Very-
my thoughts.
I
Very
do have
wise.
a question for you, Paul, as far as AI. Has AI affected your business at all in how you retrieve information or do your research for information?
AI makes me a better lawyer in some respects because I've embraced it, but AI makes a lot of mistakes.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
and I would say that, I understand you also work with publishing. And AI can be very dangerous there. And everyone says, "Oh, it's gonna wipe away the ability to make money as an author, et cetera, because we can use AI." And that's not correct. Like it's the stories. It's understanding why Dr. Joan cares about identity theft or why we care about what we're doing. It's that can't be replaced. And
Right.
you have to know enough to ask the right question.
Exactly.
And AI is not going to be able to tell you that.
You have to be an
Right.
expert to use it, because you cannot take anything straight out of AI and use it. Although getting information so you can have a bigger picture on your decision making. I just wondered, because I know the medical industry, that they were really worried about you didn't need a doctor as much because you could look up and there might be, because during the lockdown, there were all these virtual doctors that people
Yes.
went to. So I just didn't know if the law, if your industry was the same. So thank
No,
you.
and I'll tell you one other thing that I've been working on, because I'm a parent of a disabled child, and I've been working through the system in order to get financing, to find therapies and everything else, and it's been a major challenge for the last 12 years that I've been doing this in different jurisdictions. And I've decided that I would open up a channel to help other parents with disabled children. And I started writing a book. It started as a booklet and then it grew. But AI has been very helpful in helping me, go through the resources, but it gets it wrong so often.
Yeah.
And I can't imagine relying on AI for a diagnosis, given
Right.
what I've seen in terms of how far off it gets it. And so for example, I was looking at autism, and it gave me a diagnosis under cerebral palsy. And, they're not the same. My son has cerebral palsy and he may be a little bit on the spectrum, but autism isn't going to help him with this. And I've seen it several times,
Wow.
even as something as silly as I had a guest speaker coming on and I did a background check on it. And it told me about her son and how he was suffering from autism. But I knew that it was a different named son, and he was suffering from Soto syndrome. So had I blindly relied on this for my research, I would have looked like an idiot, and she would have been offended. And so
Wow.
but I do see
Interesting.
the value in it. There's a lot of value in it, and it's just how you use it.
Well,
I just use it to correct my editing and to help me get my thoughts in order. And
Yeah.
for
But it
that,
gets
it
that
is
wrong
brilliant.
too. But it
Well,
also gets that wrong too, because it'll change the meaning of the sentence.
Right.
It really will. And it doesn't understand it as well. But it really can be helpful as a cleanup, but you have to be very careful when you check what it does.
Right.
yes, you have to still read so all of these conveniences still, we still have to work
Well,
for it a bit.
But the reason why I wanted to bring that up is I wanted people to understand that if they are relying on AI for their legal advice or to help them in a way to create the structure of their business or their will or anything, that they're really at a exposure. That's why I brought it up, because so many people, they think that AI is the end all. It's gonna change everything, and I do use it every day. I love it. It's really helped me a lot. But I use like 4 different platforms together to make it
Yeah.
sing.
Interesting.
So
We'll have to
yeah,
have a chat. I'm
yeah,
interested
yeah,
to know more about that.
yeah.
But yes.
But
Okay.
that's why I wanted people to know that there isn't there's nothing that'll be as thorough and as protective as what Dr. Joan's offering.
All right. 3D protection for us 5D angels. You didn't have to put us up there. What do you think of that? So guys, if anything we've said has interested you, you can feel free to text me. I'm going to write the number right like this: 415-717-1385. I learned how to do that years ago. And just say 3D protection or ID protection, and I'll send you a little note and we can set up a time to chat. And by the way, there is also a chance, if this interests you enough to share it with your friends and family, there's a way to do that too. So just reach out and we can get started on that. And Kathy will put my number and also the website underneath it all so you can see it too. And I appreciate all of you. This has been so fun to talk to you, Kathy, about this, and to have Paul here too. And I will get my will started in about a week.
Well, yeah, thank you. And that was great to have an authority who has, years of experience, because we're out here with so many choices. The internet is a blessing and a curse. And a lot of times as a small business owner, you start a project or you start looking up something and then the phone rings, or
Right.
it's like, oh, get back to it. And by having these resources, like a CPA, a lawyer, a doctor, you have these resources that your go-to people, it can totally change how effective and happy you are in what you do, because you're an expert at what you do. You're not an expert at these other things.
That's right. I am an expert at being Dr. Joan of angels and sharing the celestial realm. Kathy is an expert with her skills, and so is Attorney Bill. And we just really appreciate you taking the time to really hear us out. And you should share your stories with Kathy so she can hear all about what has happened to you.
Yes, that's great. So as far as this time period we're going into, is there any recommendations as far as how quickly someone can get signed up and get in the system? Is there any recommendations? Because we are going into the holiday season where people spend more money online, and this could be a peak identity theft time. I don't know. But
Well, I would say sign up now. And you reminded me, if you lose your wallet, by the way, or someone steals your wallet, the ID theft, they will hire an attorney to research everything and make sure that you get all your assets back. And if any money was taken, you get it all back too. So lost wallets, you just reminded me, because when you go shopping, pickpockets, etc. So, I believe in discernment. With all that's coming up, use your discernment. Just pay attention to people around you and to pay attention to how things make you feel, or if you have an uneasy feeling, like even looking at an email that could actually hack you and change your life. Do you have an uneasy feeling? Like I had looked at that email yesterday and I did question it, and I looked at to see who it came from, and it said Norton. But down below, when it said replied to, which I didn't look at right away, it was a weird person. You have to use your discernment, guys. And that's one of the big lessons here on the planet for all of us, is how to be wise. Like not just up here, but how to be wise.
right. And Paul, do you have anything to add as far as the timing, this time period we're going into with the holidays, if there's a peak in this?
Well, I mean, there are lots of reasons why you need to take care of this now, and it's a simple process to do it. You could point to that during holiday times, the traveling is a lot more likely to have a traffic infraction or a fatality, etc. You need to. There's no good reason to put it off. And
Okay.
so, Kathy, I would strongly urge people to get their house in order on these things, because wouldn't you like one less thing to worry about? You don't have to have it as part of your New Year's resolution to get your house in order or anything like that. Just take care of it with, a sign up, and taking some time to go through. Like I said, I'd be happy to go through with it with people and show them what information they need to gather, and in order to use the products to their best, and because that's important, and no point waiting.
Yeah, thank you. That's what I was hoping you would say. Thank you.
Yeah, I think now is the time. And so, guys, again, you can call me. You can text me. It's better if you text me and just say 3D protection, and I'll text you back. We'll set up a time to meet. We can get you started. And Kathy will also include the website and a little video about it also, just to get you understanding the ways that you can start to breathe easier at night.
Right.
Oh, yes, and they handle tax audits too, just so you know, guys, if any of you are worried about that.
It's like any there's so many different things that affect a small business owner that and they're so especially a servant leader, is busy doing their best to make sure that their customers and their employees are doing well. And, this is a way for you to protect yourself and give a gift to yourself of a little more peace and ease, actually, because you don't have to get all riled up and stay upset about something for very long. You just get it out of your system, hand it off, and let someone else go after that.
Such a relief when you can do that. When I was audited, man, I didn't sleep for weeks at all.
Yeah.
So this can tear us apart.
Right.
And you just can't meditate your way through it. Well, I couldn't.
And the other thing is, if you have a small business that you're looking to recruit people and keep them on board, it's a service that you could provide to your employees, whether as a payroll deduction or straight out where you cover it. And the beauty of it is you now have another retention tool, something that's useful and help them so that they don't get hurt. And at the same time, they cannot use it to sue you. So it's a very nice combination without having that double edge. Because if you do buy them Legal Shield, the Legal Shield lawyers will not represent them in a case against you.
That's so good to know. That's so good to know, because your employer was generous enough to make sure you had this protection. Yeah. I love it. Anything else that we didn't cover, Paul?
There's a lot of things. I mean, you should really take a look at the list of services provided. You'll find them to be extremely encompassing. And there's also, as I understand, a cafeteria plan where you can add additional benefits, such as trial defense, or if you're a gun owner, etc. So,
or an Uber driver.
Yes, or a CDL driver too, as well. Mm-hmm. Where you don't want to have a problem on your personal license that affects your business, and you also don't want the business to affect your personal. And if you're working for Uber, as I understand it, they're going to represent themselves in the matter, not you. And so you really want to have that protection.
Well said, Paul.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yes, thank you.
Well, thank you for bringing this to us today, and thank you for the opportunity to do something about it, not just bring up a problem that's happening, that's apparent. It's not going away. It may be increasing, since it increased so drastically from 2022 to 2023. By 2025, it could be, not one in every 15. It could be a lot higher. So
it probably is. People don't always report it because they're embarrassed.
Yeah.
Or they don't even know it.
Or they don't know it. Like the IRS didn't write to them and tell them.
Mm-hmm. Wow.
Mm-hmm. Wow. I wouldn't have known.
Wow. Well, anyway, so any last words that you'd like to say as we finish up here? I don't know what to ask, honestly.
We have chit-chatted for like at least 30 or 40 minutes. So I think we've asked all the right questions, or we intuitively answered them. 3D protection for the 5D world. Perfect. That's my last comment. What's your last comment, Paul? You owe it to yourself, people, to take care of yourself, so your mind and consciousness is free to do your work.
Yeah, I would say that, nothing goes wrong when you follow the advice of two very intelligent ladies.
Okay. Now, Paul, you are a keeper.
Sweet talking will get you everywhere.
When you're talking to my opposing people, you have to be tough.
Well, just getting a letter should shake them up, honestly, or an email. I mean, you have no idea the power of your degree. It really is helpful. And the peace of mind of this is so important right now. There's so many changes going on, and you just have to be able to change on a dime as a small business owner. And if you can offload some of your stress and just have it taken care of, wow, how much better can it be? Because it won't happen to you if you have it. It's like that,
Well, we can't guarantee that, but we
I
can
know, but
guarantee that you can have support immediately for your issue.
well, it's kind of
Well,
like
we-
having an umbrella when you thought it was going to rain, then it doesn't rain. That's the way I look at it.
Well, you don't throw away your umbrella because it didn't rain that day, right? You save it for the next day.
Right,
I'm getting
right.
smarter.
Paul, were you going to say something?
Well, when I was an attorney for American Express, and I remember we had a sign about the legal department was where all good ideas go to die. I I would say that the important thing is not just to have an attorney, but an attorney who's not interested in gumming up the works, but who's interested in trying to help to get a
Yes.
resolution. And
Right.
that's what we're looking for, and that's why it's important to experiment with this or to start this at the infancy stage of any issues, because then they can be solved with a letter or with explaining to you where you may be making a mistake as opposed to the other party, or where you have a right you didn't even know you had. So if you don't know the answer to the question, you're not going to get it done. But if you have that consultative approach, you'll be so much better off.
That's great. That's great. So again, you can go to joanofangels.com. You can text Joan, and there's also a website, the Hangarter, legalshieldassociate.com. There's several ways, and they're in the comments and the description on YouTube. So please, if you have questions, Joan will be able to, if she doesn't know the answer, she'll be able to go find someone that does.
I have a lawyer in my pocket. That's so cute. I feel like really good when I say that. That's the weirdest thing. What's happening to me?
Thanks, you guys. Thank you. I think this isn't an easy thing to have to talk about. It's not our usual thing on this show, but it's really, really important. So I just am hoping that people will take this advice and at least look at the websites and see what gift this might be for them.
Amazing. I'm so excited. Thank you for having us on, Kathy.
Sure. Thank you both. Thank you.
Thank you very much. It was nice meeting you.
Yeah. Thank you. Bless you
All
guys.
right.
Bye-bye.
Okay. Bye.